Welcome to the Kids Eating Broccoli podcast, where we believe that raising healthy kids shouldn't be complicated. Our mission is to inspire 20 million families worldwide to take the steps to raise the healthiest generation in our history. We'll interview some of the world's leading experts in nutrition, human potential, and children's health, as well as extraordinary chefs and foodies to gain insight into simple, fun, and creative ways to introduce natural health into homes across this planet. Hi there, welcome to our next episode of the Kids Eating Broccoli podcast. Today, my guest is Dr. Jeff Styba. Dr. Jeff attained his Doctor of Chiropractic from Northwestern Health Sciences University in 2006, opened up his private practice in March of 2007, and soon became a premier doctor in the Midwest, seeing over 1,000 patient visits a week. Dr. Jeff sold his practice in 2012, and now, for the last few years, has been traveling the U.S. and Canada, educating and speaking on the power of essential oils to medical doctors, dentists, chiropractors, moms, dads, and families, empowering them to take better care of their patients and families. An expert in natural health care, nutrition, essential oils, and neurology, Dr. Jeff has a passion for empowering and equipping individuals to achieve their greatest level of health they have ever experienced. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Jeff. I really appreciate you taking your time to share some of the good message and awesome expertise you have.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. This was kind of, I don't want to say weird, but felt like this was a really divine appointment to make this happen. I just happened to see your post, and I'm like, hey, I can help with ADHD in kids, and so I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, well, awesome. So why don't we jump in by having you share with us a little bit about who you are, your background, how you got into the learning about essential oils and how they can help people, and a little bit of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So my first experience with essential oils was in chiropractic college, and I was sitting in class one day chewing gum. It was probably like wintergreen extra or something like we all used to do. But a friend of mine came up and said, hey, you shouldn't chew gum. It's extremely toxic. There's artificial sweeteners. And here, use this. And it was a bottle of peppermint oil. And I was like, what do I do with it? He goes, just put a couple, whenever you want fresh breath, put a couple drops in your mouth and you'll love it. Just use it. Use the bottle. When you want more, let me know. So from that moment, that was the last time I've ever chewed gum, and that was in about 2004. And that was my first experience with essential oils. And I used peppermint for about almost a year before, and I really thought that was the only essential oil. I didn't know there was this whole entire world. So in 2005, I was introduced to a lot of other oils, and then started my research, really started studying the chemistry and the effectiveness of essential oils. And, that was 12 years ago. And so today, that's really my main passion and main focus, is helping empower not only just families, mothers, but really equipping chiropractors, doctors, naturopaths, functional medicine doctors, and even hospital systems. Spoke to a big group of nurses at Detroit Children's Hospital about essential oils and implementing into their clinics. But it's really become a great passion of mine to help empower people with this topic, because there's so much misinformation out there on essential oils, which brands to use, which ones are good, which ones are adulterated, can you ingest them, are they safe for kids? And so that's really where I've spent the last 4 years of my life educating and building this.
Well, that's great. So you hit on a number of questions, there. But I guess the first one that I'd love for you to share is just sort of, how does something like that work? I mean, I know, or I have a thought at least, that a lot of the times when you use essential oils, it's really just, ingesting it through smelling and breathing it in. Mm. How does that have some of the profound effects that we've been hearing about lately that, some of the essential oils can have for people?
Okay, so really basic, there's 3 usage models of essential oils. So we can ingest them. So that's a main use, is dropping them directly in your mouth, putting them in your water, or putting them in a veggie capsule and swallowing them as a supplement. But if you're going to ingest essential oils, you want to make sure that there's a nutrition or food label on the back of the bottle, because just because it says therapeutic grade, just because it says organic and pure, doesn't necessarily mean it's safe to ingest or that it's unadulterated essential oil. So there's very few companies that have authentic oils that are actually ingestible. So in that case, you want to make sure there's a food label on the back of it, like a supplement fact. So we ingest them, and then topical use, we use them topically. And ingesting essential oils and using them topically is very, very similar. You get very similar benefits because the molecules in the oil go systemic in about 30 seconds, or they go into your bloodstream in about 30 seconds, and then they go in every cell in your body. A lot of the molecules will cross the blood-brain barrier and affect physiology and neurochemistry that way. But ingesting and topical use is very similar. And then aromatically, using them in a diffuser is really for emotional health, emotional support, and then also we use it to purify the air in a lot of cases. So diffusing is good for emotions, but if you want a true therapeutic benefit, you have to either apply them topically or ingest them.
Gotcha. And so, so that's fascinating. So, yeah, definitely, I've seen a lot of like the diffusers becoming more and more popular. People having them. You know, you go into different businesses even, and they'll have diffusers going, and that's basically for that emotional side, is what you're saying. And so, you know, we're really focusing our show for the month of October, in particular, on ADHD. It's ADHD Awareness Month, and we really want to, you know, give parents a lot of the alternatives to drugging their kids, which I know, you know, almost no parent really wants to give their kids medication if they can help it. And I know that a lot of those parents feel like that's really, maybe they've tried a thing or two, or they don't know what else to do. And so they turn to the medication. That's what the doctor is telling them that they have to do. And so I really want to help offer some options. And I know, you know, you reached, when I posted about that, and you reached out to me saying, you know, you have some good success. So why don't you tell us about, you know, how the essential oils can help with kids with ADHD, and maybe even some examples of times that's worked with you.
Yeah, for sure. So ADHD, and even as far as the autism spectrum, we really use the same protocol of essential oils with these kids, or even adults for that matter. So really, really simply, ADHD drugs, the major molecule is called methylphenidate. Methylphenidate is, if you're into chemistry like I am, if you look at the structure, the molecular structure of methylphenidate, and compare it to the molecular structure of cocaine, the difference is one hydrogen atom. And that one hydrogen atom makes it a calming agent versus a stimulant. So methylphenidate is very similar to cocaine, which is why a lot of these kids who get put on these drugs start to lose weight. They don't eat as much. And one of the black box warnings of these drugs, like Ritalin, Adderall, Strattera, Vyvanse, Concert, all these different ADHD drugs, the black box warning on these drugs is possible heart attack in your child, because it is so similar to cocaine. And the long-term effects are terrible on these drugs. So that methylphenidate molecule is almost identical in molecular structure to the major molecule found in vetiver essential oil. Oh, wow. So vetiver essential oil is, we source, the company that we use and work with, we source vetiver from the mountains in Haiti, and it's distilled from a really long grass. It's distilled from the roots. So the roots go about 1.5 feet into the earth. They're all hand harvested. They bang the dirt off, and then they dry the root for a period of time, and then they put all that dried vetiver root in a big copper still and distill the oil out of the root. And so since it's a root essential oil, the aroma is incredible. It smells like dirt, almost like a sweet dirt. But vetiver is it's one of the most emotionally and physiologically calming essential oils. So a child that can't focus, or a child that the parent wants to take them off the ADHD drugs, but just doesn't have a natural solution to do that, to something to substitute, vetiver can be substituted for that. And it's very, very effective. So we have, thousands of cases where a child will be on like Ritalin, Strattera, Adderall, Concerta, Vyvanse, one of those drugs, and they go tell their doctor, hey, I found this essential oil that I want to use. I want to take them off the drug and see what happens. And if it's a good medical doctor, they're going to say, absolutely, you should try something else. And you'll use 3 drops. So 3 drops is always therapeutic with essential oils. So anytime you apply them, anytime you ingest them, you always use 3 drops. And again, it doesn't matter where you apply them because the molecules go systemic in about 3 to 5 minutes. So don't be too concerned about where you put them on your body. But you can start using vetiver essential oil, and you're going to get much better results without all the terrible side effects using vetiver essential oil. So if your child is just can't focus and needs to calm their mind because their mind's going a million places at once, then vetiver is the best oil to use. And then if it's a child that needs to calm down, but also needs to focus a little bit more and stay a little bit more attentive, then we use oils like frankincense and sandalwood along with the vetiver, and that does both at the same time. So it calms them down, but then it also supports an increase in focus at the same time.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So if I'm a parent who, is listening to this now and I think, oh, that sounds great, I want to try that, today with my kid. You said the 3 drops. Is that something that you should do a certain number of times or certain times of the day? How does that work?
Yeah, so like I said, 3 drops is therapeutic. The effects of essential oils, like the most potent essential oils in the world, the effects of the oils last about 4 hours. So our liver metabolizes the molecules. The aroma may still be there, but the work of the molecules is gone. So you want to reapply every 4 hours. So a lot of times when we have kids that are taking off these drugs and they're going to use oils, the parents will apply the oil right before they go to school. And then a lot of times they'll give the oil to the nurse. If the child is too young to apply it themselves, then they'll just go to the nurse at lunch. The nurse will put the oil on, and then that'll get them through the rest of the day. But like, for example, my daughter, she's 6. She just turned 6. She's in kindergarten. And we put her oils on before she goes to school. And then she has a couple of oils in her backpack. So anytime throughout the day, she can freely put on whatever oils that she needs to. And she's been around. There hasn't been a day that's gone by that she hasn't had oils on her body since she was born. And so she knows how to use them, and she knows which ones to use for different conditions as well.
That's cool. Yeah, I guess when you grow up around it, it's like my kids with chiropractic, They'll
yeah,
I need an adjustment today, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So a couple of directions. One thought I have is, so would this be something also, because there's a lot of other sort of directions to go in really, resolving some of the ADHD symptoms and those type of things with kids. We've been hearing now from ADHD researchers that, most of the cases of ADHD aren't actually even that. They're symptoms of other, toxicities or nutritional deficiencies. So for parents who are looking to kind of have a comprehensive plan, it sounds like, and so I'm just asking you, if putting the essential oils with, making other lifestyle changes, dietary changes and things like that, will that support the change to happen more quickly, or support the child to have an easier time making some of those changes?
Yeah, absolutely. The long-term solution, number one, the greatest benefit from essential oils comes with consistency of use, because a lot of these oils actually will change. Like if there's genetically mutated or damaged DNA, there's a lot of studies that the molecules in a lot of these different oils will help repair DNA transcription errors. Wow. So long term, you want to be consistent with your essential oil use. In the short term, yes, you'll get effects no matter what you're eating, because it's basic chemistry on how the oils work physiologically in our body. However, like you said, with nutrition, you don't have to teach a kid to be addicted to sugar.
Right.
Like you don't have to teach a kid to love pancakes and waffles and all the carbs. So by restricting and raising your child with a nutrition plan that has healthy fats, that limits the amount of sugar that they consume, and that loads them up on good veggies and healthy proteins, that's going to be you're going to have the greatest result across the board with a healthier child, ADHD included. And one of the worst things that you can do for your child is feed them refined carbs and sugar all the time at every meal, because refined carbs and sugar feeds candida and yeast in our gut, and that leads to leaky gut, which then leads to all the autoimmune conditions that children suffer from in the United States today. So one of the best things you could ever do if your child has a diagnosed condition of any kind, but ADHD, very, very important with this, is going as gluten and sugar-free as you possibly can. I mean, don't necessarily eliminate it, because that's probably not a realistic solution for a lot of people, but severely limit the gluten and sugar that they consume, and you'll start to see drastic results in their behavior as well.
Yeah, that's great. So then my other thought, as you're talking about how, like, the vetiver, for example, is produced and some of these effects they have on our physiology, I can't help but think that it has to be as a result of, like the way we've evolved on this planet, in the ecosystem with these natural plants, the same things with herbal medicine and that type of stuff. So have there been uses of either the oils or maybe the properties of the oils throughout history, in human history?
Yeah, the earliest record, and that's why essential oils are so amazing, because they're like God's perfect medicine. They've been used. The first written record goes back to 4500 BC in ancient Rome, and essential oils have been a timeless therapy or medicinal uses for thousands and thousands of years. And it's really the only thing that's never changed in history is the use of essential oils, where when you look at, like, for example, Aborigines in Australia, written records go back 3,000 years for the use of tea tree oil, which we call melaleuca. Melaleuca is one of the most purifying essential oils, but written records go back 3,000 years. They used melaleuca for everything, first line of defense for anything that would ever happen to them disease-wise or injury-wise. Even in World War II, Australian medics they would carry melaleuca oil with them, and anytime they came upon an injured soldier, the first thing they would do is put melaleuca into the wound so that the wound wouldn't get infected. So essential oils are timeless, and there's 33 different oils mentioned in the Bible, 276 references, and they're the longest standing medicinal, like, anything that's ever existed. And so, yeah, they go back thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, it almost is like they are, because you say that, the oldest thing, and so I think also with food, right? I mean, that's another, so yeah. It's almost like they are food, I guess, when it comes down to it. I mean, even if you apply it topically, the way we interact with it in our body sounds a lot like, healing foods and healing herbs and things like that. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you see them at a store or online, it's like this little bottle of some mystery liquid if you don't know much about it. But to think of it like it is actually like a powerful food almost, it seems like it's in that category rather than, sort of like a alternative medicine or something like that.
Yeah, it shouldn't be considered alternative medicine. It should be considered first line of defense for everything that happens with you and your family. I mean, even right now, the company that we work with is we have a relationship with 115 different research university hospitals in the United States that all use our oils in their protocols with patients. They study all of our oils, and it's becoming very, very mainstream because of the fact that people just don't want drugs anymore. I mean, when I graduated from chiropractic college, people still wanted drugs. They wanted to do that because they still thought that was the solution. But in today's environment, people are much smarter, they're much more educated, and they've seen the downfall of a lot of these drug companies, but the drugs changing over and over and over again. And so people are looking for a natural solution, and this is a very, very effective solution for both prevention and when different things occur that we need help with.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I mean, especially that it's being incorporated into these sort of what sounds like, mainstream research labs.
Yeah.
Sort of gives you hope for the future of Western medicine, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, I wonder if you have any sort of specific stories, not that you have to name names necessarily or anything, about kids who've seen a turnaround, just so, a parent can kind of wrap their mind around what we're talking about in terms of, if they go down this road, what they might experience with their child.
Yeah, when I first started 4 years ago, when I first started teaching and traveling about essential oils, the very first person that I used vetiver with was a neighbor of mine back in Minnesota, and live in Illinois now. But he was 8 at the time, severe ADHD, very skinny because he'd been on the drug for about 3 or 4 years. So he'd still grown, but obviously losing weight. And he didn't eat much, and even taking and his drug had been changed multiple different times throughout the few years he's been on the drug. And so they came to the first class that I did at my house, actually, and they started using vetiver and this blend called Intune on him immediately. And within a couple of weeks, he was off the drug, and that was 4 years ago, and he's continually stayed off the drug, and he's a much happier, healthy. He doesn't have the dark circles under his eyes anymore. He's put on weight. He looks like a healthy 12-year-old now. And since then, we've used it, thousands of times across the country and really across the world. And now we're moving more into the autism space with the same protocol, because whether it's neurodevelopmental, neurobehavioral, or just a child can't focus, there's a autistic school in Mokina, Illinois, that we work very closely with. There's about 200 children that go to this school. They all have autism, and we teach classes regularly to the parents of this school, teaching them how to use vetiver, how to use frankincense, how to use sandalwood, because with autistic children, some of the autistic kids are nonverbal, and we've had a lot of cases where they start using frankincense, they start using vetiver, and they begin to verbalize and start speaking and starting to learn how to communicate. So there's so many different mechanisms of how essential oils work, but one of the most profound mechanism of how they work with ADHD and autistic kids is the reduction of neurologic inflammation when you use the oil. So like frankincense and vetiver are very calming emotionally, but they also have a mechanism where they reduce systemic inflammation and neurologic inflammation in our brain and nerve system. So you're a chiropractor, I'm a chiropractor, so we always use chiropractic. And when you get adjusted and use oils and have the right nutrition plan, it's almost 100% of the time, whatever drug that you're on or whatever condition that you have will start to reverse very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's really cool to see that effect, especially, to see you guys working with the kids. It's obviously our mission at Kids Eating Broccoli is really to affect the future, and it's always inspiring to run into other people that are out there reaching out to do that too, because as I'm sure you're aware, the health of you mentioned your daughter. I have kids around the same age, and their generation, as of right now, is the first in history that's expected to have a shorter lifespan. So, but if we keep getting the word out and offering parents, real solutions, that'll make a difference in that. And so, thank you for reaching out and doing that stuff.
Oh, you're welcome. As soon as I saw the name of your podcast, I was like, this is going to go well. We're very, very like-minded. Kids Eating Broccoli. They should be eating broccoli.
Right. So then what, is there any kind of like a basic kit or, obviously we've mentioned specifically vetiver and, you mentioned frankincense and sandalwood and these type of things specifically for ADHD. And then also just, talking about the beneficial uses. Are there other ones that parents with kids who maybe they're diagnosed with ADHD or just want to help their kids do better at school or, feel more emotionally, strong about themselves and that type of stuff? Are there any others out there that are sort of general ones for parents with kids?
Yeah, so there's a handful of oils that we use and we recommend using daily with children, regardless of their age, from infants to adults. And the main oils that we use on a daily basis for kids across the board, there's obviously frankincense, because frankincense has a ton of anti-cancer properties to it, and also immune supportive and neurologic and systemic inflammation. But then there's a blend called On Guard, which we use daily. And On Guard is a blend. It has cinnamon, clove, eucalyptus, peppermint, and wild orange. And that blend has been studied to kill 70 different pathogens. So from flu viruses to cold viruses to staph, MRSA, more dangerous things, foodborne illnesses. On Guard has been studied to kill all these bacteria and different viruses. And so On Guard is an oil that we use daily for prevention. And then at nighttime, we like to use lavender to help fall asleep, and a blend called Breathe, which Breathe is a blend of oils, melaleuca, eucalyptus, peppermint, camphor, ravensara, and cardamom essential oil. Those are all essential oils that open up the airways, open up the sinuses, reduce mucosal inflammation, so very effective in helping breathe. The reason why we do it at night is because we use a calming oil like lavender, and then we use an oil like Breathe at night to keep the airways open while you sleep, so you breathe in more oxygen. And then the lavender helps you stay in that REM sleep. And so you get more oxygen and you sleep better, so your recovery is stronger. So emotionally, just by doing those two, you'll see a change in your children in the morning when they wake up. But yeah, so those are kind of the basics. And then vetiver we'll add if there's a focus issue or ADHD. And then, obviously there's 80 some different oils that we work with. So
yeah, for all the specific things. Yeah. Well, cool. So where, obviously there's 80 different ones. There's all kinds of different, combinations and so forth that depending on the particular effects you're looking for. Where can people find out more about that and more about you if they're looking for more info? Yeah.
So the two companies that would really recommend to only ever use in the essential oil world are, Josh Axe has good ones, Young Living and doTERRA. So we use Young Living for 10 years. We switched to doTERRA for a number of reasons, mostly potency of the oils. We get more predictable results with doTERRA. And then there's a lot of practices that we like different. But so you can find me at Jeff Styba, and it's just STYB as in boy A. I'm currently going through with my wife a series on our Facebook page, A to Z of every single oil, 5-minute videos on the chemistry, the history, the usage, and some fun facts about each oil. So you can find me there. You can send me a private message there. But really, that's the best place to connect and learn more about essential oils. And if you want to get involved, just send me a private message and we can help you out.
Great. Yeah, I've caught some of your Facebook Lives, so definitely helpful. Learn something I didn't know, each time I've tuned in for a few minutes. So awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being with us. I'm sure you inspired a lot of new ideas and new thoughts among parents, who are tuning into our episode here. So I really appreciate that. I love when we can have things shared that maybe are outside of maybe the normal spectrum or normal thought about where to go and how to help that are so, work so well with our normal body or normal physiology, aren't going to be things that have side effects, or really even things that seem like maybe too difficult for parents a lot of times, that number of kids, busy schedules. So to be able to do something that can have such a profound effect that has such an easy application, put a few drops on your child's skin at regular intervals, can be really beneficial and make a big difference. So I really appreciate you taking your time and sharing with us today. And I know I'm going to look more into essential oils for myself and kids as well as a result of just this conversation. So I really appreciate it.
Awesome, Brad. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And anytime you want any other topics regarding essential oils on your show, I'll be happy to do it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll stay in touch for sure. All right. You take care now. If you enjoyed this episode of Kids Eating Broccoli podcast, connect with us online. You can find us on Facebook at Kids Eating Broccoli Podcast or at Dr. Brad Ellisor DC. You can also go to our website, drellisor.com. That's DOCTORELLISOR.com. Go to iTunes and leave us a review and a rating, or on Stitcher. And be sure to keep in touch with us so you can hear the next episode. Sign up for our mailing list or like us on Facebook. You guys take care now, and let's make the next generation the best generation.